Hello, hello, America. Good evening, everyone. This is Elena Bartash, your little sick real estate investor. But it really doesn't matter because today my podcast about PadSplit, and my guest is very cool guy. He is one of PadSplit's experts. He is known person for those who are in charge with PadSplit. It's Ray Nunes. Meet Ray. Hi, Ray.
What's up, everybody? Hey, Elena.
Hi, thank you so much, Ray, for being my guest today. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. I'm up on my coffee. I believe I'm in 5 cups in, but I'm prepared. I'm ready to go, and I'm excited.
Thank you so much. Me too. My gosh, I have so many questions about PadSplit. Okay, let's start. Let's start. For those who doesn't know who is Ray Nunes, could you please introduce yourself a little bit and tell us who is Ray Nunes?
Yeah, for sure. So my name is Ray Nunes, and I've been with PadSplit for 4 years. I've been in real estate for the last 10 years, and I got into the game, ironically enough, on that word wholesaling. So back when I first heard about wholesaling, it was one of those things that people don't know exactly what it is. You can't really get too much information. You start watching YouTube videos, you start to go down the funnel. And now, years later, after getting into it initially, losing $15,000, joining a major company and helping run that company and building others. Ultimately, I landed at PadSplit 4 years ago. I actually opened the state of Florida for them. I spread the word throughout all our cities as we open, and I've helped the company expand into other markets. So more than that, I actually own 7 PadSplit that total to be about 47 doors. I did that within a 6-month span, the purchases, and then within the next following 6 months, we onboarded them onto the platform. And so now I spend my time just educating investors on co-living and PadSplit and guiding them through the process from concept to expanding their portfolio.
Great. Yeah, it's great. Do you know how PadSplit started? Who got this genius idea?
Well, this is all due to Atticus LeBlanc. So Atticus, I don't know if it wasn't so much of luck and serendipity. It didn't fall on his lap. There definitely was a contest on who can come up with a solution for affordable housing, and it was based in Atlanta. But he was renting his property long term, and as history, says, the legend of PadSplit, someone was renting his rooms out in his properties, and they were shooting music videos at his house. He later had someone, after evicting those initial tenants, come up to him and ask him, "Are you still renting your rooms out?" And then he thought to himself, "Oh, this is great. If I rented 4 rooms to 4 different individuals versus what I could rent it in this neighborhood, I can make more money than I was originally." So it then long term, a bunch of years later, it's developed into a technology company, and it expanded into 20 cities nationwide, where now we're hearing about it now, but it's been in existence even longer than the start date of 2017 that people talk about, because it again started privately with his own portfolio. So that's the start. That's the concept of how it initially happened. It's a lot deeper, but for the sake of the podcast, it was kind of a mistake, kind of concept, and it's kind of blown up since then with a lot of technology.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah,
will
and I
say
suppose.
we started in Atlanta. Second market was Houston, and then after Houston, I believe it was the Florida market, and that's kind of how early that I came into the fold of things. And in Florida, we opened Jacksonville and Tampa, and then Orlando and
Mhm.
Miami after the fact. But that's kind of the beginning of my journey into this company.
Mhm. Cool. And I believe with time, PadSplit made more and more technologies. And right now, looking at PadSplit site, you'll be surprised how much analytics PadSplit gives out to their hosts. You can predict level of occupancy. You can predict average prices with shared bathrooms, with with private bathrooms, so much analytics. I'm really impressed. Who does all this
There's
magic for you guys?
the engineering department, to be honest, and the tech side. A lot of great people there that make us look great. We're just the spokespeople ultimately, but I was one of the smart investors that was paying attention to some of those engineering people and thought, oh, I should go buy some PadSplits now. But I do want to say that, yeah, they keep adding technology to it and they keep adding different changes. You're going to start to see an overhaul coming soon. And we get early preview, obviously, because we have department meetings where they discuss a lot of these changes that come up. But early PadSplit, it was hard to underwrite. It was hard to talk about the numbers. We were super conservative. Now we're able to at least show you market comps as a whole, as well as what you can charge per different items inside of your bedroom. So now when I'm giving you feedback and guidance on how to onboard your PadSplit, we can be a heck of a lot more detailed than we definitely were 6 months, going back. So tons of technology.
Yeah. It's great plus. It's great help for you guys, for your business, and for us, as in for hosts. Okay, so let's start from the basic. What people should know about PadSplit House, about your guys' requirements and then company to start working, to start checking PadSplit's properties. What are the main requirements from you?
It's definitely changed a lot. And I would have said originally, you want to look at big rooms or big houses that you can make a lot of rooms in. Ultimately, I think that that's even changed. I think now for PadSplit, anyone that's looking at fixing and flipping a property and the property is just sitting on the market, it's an easy transition to go ahead and put some walls up to make it rent, even with the concept of Airbnbs sitting vacant in a lot of these neighborhoods that probably shouldn't have had an Airbnb. A lot of people are converting that almost as is right into PadSplit. But what I'll tell you, kind of the main ingredients of what makes a good PadSplit, think of who's staying in our properties. It's workforce housing. You should have workforce around you. So wherever you're at in the country, you should have jobs around your house, and you should have a need for some form of affordable housing. Look to see what is it that is your primary type of jobs around where your houses are, where you're looking to buy, and then see what their salaries are roughly, and then see what the cost of living is. And if you can figure out that, then you'll be able to tell the large discrepancy of, I'll use an example of an industry. Let's say that you're working in retail, and in retail you're making $15 an hour. You might make at most $30,000 a year. If your studio apartment is $1,600, you need to make 1,600 times 3 and then times 12 to qualify for it. A person that makes $30,000 won't qualify for that. So when you start to look in your market for a retail job, it's because those people aren't changing careers or changing jobs as often. They're staying longer. So you want to pick an industry where you want to fill yourself up with and look for a large amount of retail jobs, outlets, large shopping malls, large shopping plazas, a different mixture of retail space, as well as some hospitality would help fill your 4, 5, 6, 7 bedroom PadSplit. It wouldn't be hard then if you have hundreds of retail jobs and only 7 bedrooms. So if we could boil it down in whatever city you're in, look to where there's a lot of jobs and people can't live around their job, and start from there. And then start to look at layout. Layout would be second important thing. If you have a bonus room, that's a bedroom. A dining room could be a bedroom, a den, Florida room, some attics, some basements. Those are all great opportunities for you to add another 1 to 4 bedrooms.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ray. And we spoke with you a little bit before we started our podcast. We spoke with you a little bit about garage conversion. Could you please explain us a little bit what usually, I know, for example, in our PadSplit, we did not do garage conversion because previous landlord, they already done it. And we have in the garage, we have already 2 extra bedrooms. But I heard many stories, people don't feel confident about garage conversion because they worry about permits It can take time. It's not predictable, but in the same time, we can make another, at least 1 or 2 bedrooms. So what would you suggest to people?
I would normally like to figure out what type of investor the person is. Are they experienced or non experienced? As an experienced investor, they would know how to properly go through a renovation inside of a garage. And what I mean by proper renovation is that if you're going to change non-heated square footage into heated square footage, you're going to want to get engineer and permits. And with engineer and permits, it sounds exactly what I'm saying. It's expensive because you're going to need sketches, and then you're going to go ahead and have the city show up to your property a few times, and then you're going to now put vents in that room and pass air conditioning. So most people with a hard money loan don't have the finances to sit down and hold that high interest payment. So my biggest recommendation, first and foremost, is don't do a garage conversion. It can get you in trouble for trying to add that as a PadSplit. If you're savvy and you know what you're doing and there's egresses already there and you're not having to pop a window or it's already been converted, then it's something that's easy for you to do and it's not difficult to add 1 room or 2 rooms. But if it's just a garage that has no windows and you're having to put windows, and those windows are now going to bring the attention of code enforcement that drives by your neighborhood on a daily basis, I then probably wouldn't recommend it, especially if you're a newbie investor that intends to try to do it the wrong way. It's the bad type of attention that you definitely don't want in your PadSplit property.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, when you're a newbie, you need to make sure you don't dive deeper in permits and some stuff with city halls, right? It will come with time.
You're going to want to literally check off a couple of things as you're going through your rehab. And a couple of things what I mean check off is, what things can I do to my property that will bring me positive attention, and what could bring me negative attention? So you don't want too much of the negative attention. And if you start to check off a few and you're going in the wrong direction, I'll give you a couple examples. You can set your limit to how many parking spots you have in your house. You set your limit. PadSplit doesn't. So that means you know your house. If you have 2 parking spots in the driveway and you see that in your neighborhood, there's a bunch of cars that park 1 or 2 cars in a patch of grass in front of your house, then it might be lenient and you might be fine putting 2 more spaces there or road parking. You shouldn't go 1 for 1 on parking spaces. PadSplit's guidance is for every 2 bedrooms, you want to have 1 parking space, because 50% of people on PadSplit can't afford a car anyway. So you set your limit to be more conservative so that you could go ahead and not stick out in your neighborhood. So that's even the first thing. It's set your limitation. Don't do extra. If you're going to add a lot of rooms, add extra garbage cans. Don't put less garbage cans, because most of them are eaten out. They're doing takeout. They're not cooking in the house. If you have too much takeout, then you have a lot of trash and it could fall over. It brings bad attention. Those are 2 negative check marks. You want to control the negatives as much as you can operationally, so that your property could be that good property on the block.
Interesting. Thank you, Ray. And I assume you already touched the base neighborhood. Let's talk a little bit about neighborhood. What kind of neighborhood do we need? Do you want? And what kind of neighborhood we don't want?
I'm giving you my investor answer. As the person that has PadSplit properties, I do have property in a B-class neighborhood. The reason why I bought a property in a B-class neighborhood is because it is near a larger shopping plaza with a medley of different jobs. In there, you would have tons of big box retail stores, small box retail stores, as well as a few hotels and a convention center. In that property, I am seeing higher weekly rates because there are some better paying jobs in the vicinity. So I am trying to pull from that pool of workers that are able to pay a little more, because PadSplit does the background check, credit check, and work verification. If you don't financially qualify for the room, you don't see it on the platform. But if you qualify for a slightly higher price room, now you have yourself someone who might be looking for a better neighborhood. So if you're limited to a C and D class neighborhood, then ultimately you might not be able to pull that member, that avatar that you're looking for. I have a manager of a Hooters. I have Disney employees in my property. I have people who work in hotel as supervisors. And you can't get that in every single neighborhood. You really are going to pull from what's in your vicinity. I'm not going to live in your cheaper PadSplit and drive 30 miles to go to my job that pays well.
Yep.
I'm going to want to be walking distance from my better paying job. But the normal thought in PadSplit and normal guidance that's heard everywhere is that you want to be in C, D class neighborhoods. I would combat that normally. If you are in a D class neighborhood, naturally, it is going to be more affordable to live in that neighborhood. So then now you're competing against long-term rental Section 8. And if you're competing against long-term rental Section 8 and it's already affordable, then you have other options. If you're now in a better area that people look to move to, maybe a place that is turning and being rehabbed and fixed, and there's better paying jobs, or there are younger families moving into that neighborhood, you now have a desirable location that someone might not want to leave because the alternative is a very expensive apartment that they put in your area. And especially as a single, you're not going to move into a whole single family home. You're either looking for room rentals, co-living, or you're looking for roommates, or you're looking for an apartment that's a 1-bedroom, 1-bath, or a studio. And we normally beat out, in most markets, the studio and the 1-bedroom apartment.
Yeah.
So some of my guidance when it comes to location, ultimately it's who you're going to be working with, people living in your home, and then it also affects the demand. More jobs, less affordable, more your house stays occupied, longer tenure, higher weekly rates, and higher occupancy.
Yeah, nice. Thank you so much. So I would say before to start PadSplit, to start checking particular property, you would need to think who will be your tenant and why your tenant would want to live in your house.
Exactly. And a small segue is like, they're making decisions off the platform. We're not walking the properties with them. So since we're not walking the properties with them, they're doing it virtually. So then think it through. If you're being guided by me, I'm teaching you on what works and what people are searching for. So if you're looking for, if the most clickable option is queen size beds or private bathrooms or bigger bedrooms, then logically in the beginning process of you analyzing a property, what you should be looking for are those items and how you can maximize that. You can't add a bathroom everywhere because that's crazy. Who has $15,000 to put in every single bedroom? But if now you can now modify that living room to be bigger and that dining room to be bigger, now you can now amplify your properties in the search results because people are now filtering to look for that specific item. So it is very important to understand what the members are looking at and what they're looking specifically for, and start to put that more in front of them and then present it very nicely as well. Because if your house, you did a really good job, but then you just present a mattress cover in the photo and it doesn't look great, and you put a 10-inch thick mattress, it's not going to highlight how beautiful your house is. So staging is another aspect that I think is underrated, especially in PadSplit.
Yeah, our tenants should be happy. They should live comfortable life. They should sleep on comfortable bed, and everything should be predicted by us, right?
Yeah,
We should provide
it's like
nice
your life.
housing.
It's like your life. You want to design it. You don't want it to just happen. So you should want to design the returns you want to get based off of how you're acquiring it and then what you're putting into it. And it should lead into the results that you're getting.
You mentioned neighborhood B, C, D, but what about A?
I wouldn't do it. So
I agree,
the only
but I just
reason,
wanted to hear your opinion. I agree with you.
so So A-class neighborhoods, like you're almost default into like HOAs. A lot of new construction fall into, especially in Florida and a lot in Texas and a lot of different places across the country. Um, New construction default community management. Community management leads into HOAs, or if it's an older neighborhood, those people are vigilant. You're driving down the block, they're stopping, they're waving at you. Hey, I don't know you, waving at you. And then if you start to now have PadSplit members aren't transient or as transient. They're staying there longer. It's about an 8-month average, but you still notice that there's different cars. It doesn't have to be 8 cars, but 3 cars. It's a little odd. Your neighbors care about their neighborhood. They care about their home values. They think that you are Airbnb. They're not going to sit down and think you're a PadSplit first. So because they think you're an Airbnb, they're probably going to report you. And when they report you, they're probably going to want to go get into your property, and then, oh, well, now you're a boarding house, according to what, city standards might perceive you to be. So then you want to avoid a lot of those risks, as I mentioned earlier, those negative red flags, those little check boxes that are red. You want to stay away from those neighborhoods because your neighbor is going to be your worst thing possible to you in your investment. That is why you don't want to go buy in a neighborhood.
Yeah, we don't want to poke any conflicts with the neighbors, and neighbors usually are more picky. They more careful. They tend to report more. So, and right now it's time to talk a little bit about reporting. So I've had a couple of situations when people who runs PadSplits, they were reported to city, and city shut down their businesses. And especially I've heard story from Fort Worth, Texas, Great Prairie, Texas, because they have some limitations, some restrictions against co-living business. So if I'm not mistaken, they don't allow more than 5 people who are not related to each other to live in the same house. For me, as for Ukrainian, it sounds like a little bit communism. Who can tell me what to do with my house? But this is the reality. Yeah. So how do you handle this situation? How your legal department helps your clients?
So this is when it's great to work with somebody who has been in real estate for a long time, and that would guide you on things you should avoid. And it's not just, hey, onboard anything onto PadSplit. So with that being said, you want to know the city you're investing in. You just don't want to buy cheap for cheap's sake. But if you are looking into code, you're looking into what zoning laws are, what are some of the restrictions. Some restrictions are based off of land size, where they'll tell you if it's over an acre, you can have over X amount of people. It could be like 6, 7 people. In that case, in a lot of the Texas markets, especially in slightly more rural areas or older areas, you could still then buy and be in code. I'll say, like, with understanding your markets, I'll give you an example of Austin. Austin doesn't have a restriction of how many unrelated people are there. They just changed that. And there's going to be changes in a lot of different markets to alleviate the pressures of unaffordability in our markets. Houston, as another example in Texas, for Houston specifically, you have to register your property as a co-living property, and they allow you to, and then you have to follow their and its restrictions. You have to go through some hoops on square footage, specific square footage. I don't know the specifics on how small the rooms have to be to fit code, or if you have to put sprinkler systems inside of the properties. I hear that that's changing. Prior, you didn't have to put sprinkler systems. Now you have to put sprinkler systems in Houston due to abuse of some of the rules that they've made to allow co-living properties. But those are all things that you need to know before you get into any city. In Jacksonville, for example, if you screw a nail into a wall and you put up a wall on PadSplit, you might have to pull a permit. In let's say Virginia, to put a wall up in your house to add another room, but not a bedroom, you might not require to go ahead and pull a permit for that type of modification in your property. So understand what is zoning laws and what are some of the permits that you're required transition into a pad split. But I will say that some of the things that PadSplit does to help circumvent some of that is even how we're structured. PadSplit, when you're going through PadSplit, you're not renting to 6 unrelated people or 5 unrelated people. These people are not tenants. They don't sign leases. The relationship that these people have to the homeowner are that they are members of an LLC, and that LLC is renting from you directly. So you're the landlord. The LLC that PadSplit created is the tenant. And then the people that are screened and select your house are then placed under that LLC as members of the LLC. And it's very outlined on what their relationship is to the company that they're under, what are their dues, what are the fees, what are the rules they have to follow. It's on every host's account when they click on it and they click on their member, and they can see that agreement. And even in the host agreement, it explains that we have a 1-year lease between the LLC that signed the 1-year lease and the homeowner. There's a 1-year lease between the two. There's also a fixed amount that's on there, and every bit of verbiage to show that that's the tenant landlord relationship. So I will say that those are the 3 tidbits: is truly understand what you need to do to modify your property and some of the restrictions they have, and then understand your zoning, and then understand that PadSplit isn't renting out to individuals as tenants. Some of the avoidance, and I don't want to drag too long on it on my response, but some of the things that you want to really focus on is your acquisitions. Do you need to make an 8-bedroom house to make a successful PadSplit? No. My cheapest acquisition, I talk about it a lot, is an $82,000 house. That $82,000 house, I use hard money. I only put $6,000 into it. I was able to pull out 30 on a refi. Because I bought it wholesale and because I bought it so cheap, I only had to put 6 bedrooms in it. Is 6 bedrooms against local code? It's not. It falls under it. But if I'm buying something retail and I'm paying above market price, I obviously then need to go ahead and charge more or make more rooms to be able to even make money. So a little bit on the acquisitions, like a little more effort on acquisitions, would also help you in how many rooms you need to get out of that PadSplit to be successful. It doesn't always have to fall on PadSplit ultimately. It can also be on your acquisition that you're doing it, whether it's creatively or buying through wholesale, acquiring better, modifying to fit what local code is, and still be more profitable than a long-term rental property and a person doing short-term rental. Push back, Elena, in case I didn't answer anything. Push back on me and definitely ask a follow-up.
You do. You do answer. Don't worry. Thank you so much. Yeah, you do. You did. And actually, my next question I wanted to ask you: how fast, how long time we should expect to get our property stabilized? Yes, I realize there are different areas, different cities, different timing. Some zip codes it takes 1 month up to 100% occupancy. In some zip codes, couple months up to 80% occupancy. But average timing to stabilize property, according to your experience.
Stabilize is a little different than filled. So I'll give you fill rates, and it's an average, but normally what I like to see is about 7 days to first occupancy. And that's give or take a couple days. Could it be faster? Have I seen someone fill a whole house, a 4-bedroom house in Baltimore in less than 5 days? Yes, absolutely. And in some markets in Orlando, I've definitely seen a whole house fill up in about 2 days. So there are different demands. It is averages that we do give you in guidance, but on average, you should be seeing a first move in within 7 days. You should be seeing about 27 days to about 80%. It changes depending on the jobs. It changes depending on the market and where you're at in that city. Stabilization is different. So you could onboard your PadSplit today, and in 27 days, you're at 80% occupancy. But are those people staying the whole year? No, probably not. But a good chunk of them that would hit about some form of stabilization somewhere around the 90-day mark. Around the 90-day mark, you're seeing a lot of the people that will be in your PadSplit longer term in your house. And then from there, you might have, instead of 2 people move out in a month, you might just have 1 person move out. And you're then only filling up 1 room, while the rest of the people that are there are the ones that have already gone through a couple roommates, understand the concept, know how PadSplit's structured, understands the people that are with them. Now they're building a community and further bond. So you're going to probably stabilize somewhere around the 90-day mark. It hits some form of maturity.
Yeah. In this case, you mean stabilization? It's to reach exact level of occupancy that average number for PadSplit for this zip code is.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, that's correct.
What are the sources, guys, do you use to fill tenants in? Do you use only your website, or you connect with some other platforms?
I love that. I love that question, actually. And there's a severe misconception. I have a Facebook group with 1,500 people in the group, and sometimes I see the question. I had someone jump into the Facebook group and said, "Hey guys, Roomster is great," and I found fantastic results. And I get it, and I fully respect people who individually do co-living on their own. I think we have great learnings across different people who do or don't do PadSplit. But little did you know, PadSplit advertises on about 60 to 7 different listen services. And they also spend money on a monthly basis on Google advertisement, Meta advertisement, and YouTube. So there's multiple layers to it. I'll start with the Meta, YouTube, and Google. When you're searching for room rentals and PadSplit shows up on top, and then you start to go on another website like eBay, or you start to go on Amazon, and then now you start to see PadSplit on the top, that's what PadSplit pays for. So then after we follow you for a couple of different sites, okay, maybe you don't want to deal with PadSplit, but you go to Zillow.com, or you go to Roomies or Roomster or Furnish Finder or Rent.com, all of those different sites that you think are general competition, and that might be a great idea for you to advertise. Well, PadSplit has a national partnership with them where they are listing also on your behalf on those sites. So we are still throwing a really wide net. We're doing targeted marketing. And then we're also, based off the people that are searching on our website, we're sending them messages and reaching out to them to let them know that there's properties that are activating in their area. Then after someone's enticed to want to go see a little bit more on PadSplit, that's when PadSplit does the background check, credit check, work verification, and then shows them what they qualify for on the platform. And even then, you still get to see a bit of their profile on some of their qualifications before you approve or deny the person, based off of a mix of things that you obviously see on their trying to move into your house. So yeah, we're advertising on a bunch of different sites, but you would think, hey, PadSplit's just advertising on PadSplit. No, PadSplit's advertising on about 70 different sites, and they're also paying to have your property pop up on different medias.
Great. But anyway, if someone believes their PadSplit fills in not as fast as they would expect, what this homeowner wants to do they have to reach out to you guys to discuss this question to you?
No, a few things that you could work on, like some pro tips. Change your photos. One, photos do affect your positioning in the algorithm. Your photos are graded based off of visuals. So that grading mechanic does play a factor in there. The other thing that you can do is change your photos. Instead of just taking a different photo, you can change to whatever your first photo is, so that you can obviously display something different. If you have one room available, you're going to want to show just that one room. If you are, or different angles of that room. And if it's a whole house, then you might want to show some of your attributes. If you have common areas, obviously add better descriptions, more detailed descriptions, change your titles. You could do unique titles for sure. But the other thing that PadSplit implemented is promo codes. And if you do a promo code on your property, statistically, it has a way higher chance than you just leaving it at whatever price it is. The other couple of things that I could think of, instead of having a move-in fee, which kind of acts like a deposit, you can remove absolutely the move-in fee. And by removing the move-in fee, you would now, if someone wants to filter through and just search for no move-in fee, when they hit no move-in fee, your property will pop up as no move-in fee property. There's also instant book-in as an option. There is one last one. Oh, price reductions. If you do a $10 price reduction at any moment on your listing, there's a special emblem that pops up. I believe it's green, and it shows right on your listing that this was reduced by $10. And that does stick out compared to another property that has absolutely nothing of a display on the listing. So now when you're scrolling down, you go, what's this green thing? Oh, they reduced $10. Let me click it. So some tips, you can self-advertise your property. You can go to some workforces, some unions, some job sites. You can give referral codes to the members in the house so they can recommend some people from their jobs, especially with some of these larger jobs like hotels or hotel chains or Disney or theme parks or ballparks, whatever it is. You can give them a link. They can get paid, and then you can help fill your property up with similar like members that you want in your property.
Thank you so much for these tips. Everything important. It comes with experience.
I try to throw a lot, and what ends up happening is like I'll hear how other people are doing it, so I'll go ahead and share what other people are doing in different markets. There's a couple other ones, but definitely, obviously, reach out to me. But happy to throw as much as I can to your podcast. So,
thank you, Ray. Absolutely. Actually, people, if you watch us right now, or you will be watching us in the future, I leave Ray's Facebook link under this video, and you can reach out to him anytime. Feel free, please, if you need any advice about PadSplit. Cool. And Ray, what are the most common mistakes the property owners make when first working with PadSplit?
Common ones, all right. So there's a thought that maybe PadSplit reps, you can go around them, but you can't. So like you can't just list your property. It literally defaults to somebody. So if you think you're going to start a listing, it's going to default you to a meeting with somebody. If you go through a course or go through someone, you're still going to be defaulted after you pay for your course. You're going to be defaulted to a PadSplit rep ultimately. So some misconceptions, you still end up talking to someone. And then, so the other part is that you said starting a PadSplit, right? Or before starting a PadSplit. Core market. So you could put a PadSplit anywhere, technically. I would say, like, for real, your performance is going to really depend on the market you select. There's some common sense places, like obviously expensive areas: New York, Chicago, Miami, LA, and Seattle, for example. Boston. Those are all unaffordable places. Yeah, of course it makes sense, but if you pick cities that PadSplit has obviously done research on, you get data research. If you're going to do your first one, try to do it in a core market. But if you already have an existing portfolio or you're an operator, then feel free. You're not stuck by like the limitation of what's a core market, what's not a core market. If you already do your own like screening, marketing, and money collection, PadSplit provides that whether it's a core market or not. So you can take your property, have PadSplit do a majority of it, and now you just have to worry about the operational aspects of it, which is a fraction of what you were doing prior. And also utilize them then for co-living. So now you're making more money than you would have traditionally. So some bits of misconception that you only have to pick core markets, but I would say like if you're an operator, then go for it. If you're not an operator and you're curious on co-living is basically PadSplit's the simple training wheels version of how to make more money today with a platform that you don't have to recreate the wheel. So instead of me having to pay for a course, patch together and do the process that PadSplit already does, PadSplit's only charging you 8% a month after the first 10 days. That 8%, and trust me, I paid thousands to self-market my own properties. It's a process to screen. and it's a process to try to get someone to see a property. It doesn't make sense, and unless you're like very hyper experienced. So I think it's a misconception that, uh, you know, we're just doing marketing. No, we do a whole lot. Like the accounting portion of it
Mhm.
and the collection of the money and managing the people 24 hours is a lot. So, um, what else? I mean, I could go for days. I think the 8x10 thing when looking for pad splits is also, don't look at just what the basics are. Look to maximize on other areas, because the 8x10 bedroom size is, let's say, our smallest room size.
Mhm.
But understand that a 10x11 could make you $10 to $15 more. So
Mhm.
you're not stuck by just the limitations of what the standards are. I'd say that those are a couple of misconceptions that off bat, can start you off in a really good place.
Yeah. Ray, I believe you have your own rental properties, right? You do.
I do, portfolio of them, 47
Okay.
doors, 7 houses.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. You said, yeah. And do you have only pad splits, or you implement any other exit strategies?
I primarily only do pad splits. My wife really tried to get me to do Airbnb initially before she started working at PadSplit. It just,
Mhm.
for the market that we have today and how unaffordable things are, I'm just looking to
Mhm.
scale and to grow and to add more onto the platform, because it's the only consistent thing that brings anywhere between 15 to 30% returns at a 90 to 92% occupancy. And
Mhm.
trust me, I've looked at the common denominator. Multifamily properties cost way more than single family, whether it's in Florida or in any other
Mhm.
market. If it's a block building or a duplex that's ugly, that's a 2-1-2-1. Ultimately, it's 4-2 for the building. You're always going to spend the second that they say multifamily. This exit
Mhm.
strategy has just been a way for me to be able to just get that multifamily return where I'm making $5,500 gross to $7,700 gross. So I primarily have done that. I've done fix and flips, I've done Airbnbs, I've done a long-term rental, but my portfolio is just co-living at the current moment.
Mm. And what your experience says, what is the best way to purchase co-living property? It is creative way, or this is a BRRRR method, or this is just hard money, DSCR. What do you like most?
So my portfolio was built off of Burr. I will say though that all my friends that were doing it creatively have passed me,
Mhm.
and I've hit my limitation on funds at the current moment. So anyone that wants to lend privately, I'm your guy. But yeah, with Burr, I think it's a good way to scale. It definitely absolutely works with PadSplit. It's not limited like long-term rental, and it allows you to practically self-fund yourself to buy more properties
Mhm.
by pulling that money out. But once you run out of the money, then you're kind of stuck with the properties you have. You always want to keep something kind of cycling by creating active income. But creative financing, I find to be probably the fastest way where people are limited by their imagination. I have friends that do acquisition of storage facilities off of creative. So with creative
Oh,
financing,
wow.
you're only limited by
Mhm.
how you can structure the deal and then raise capital to continue to buy more. The only other way that
Mhm.
I could think of that's like really quick is just conversion. If you have any of the other models that exist, you look at it, see what you generate, then compare it to PadSplit. If it makes more money, as is, throw it to PadSplit. If it makes more money, just add in a room or two, throw it to PadSplit. I think that is a very fast way to scale, especially multiply room count. So those are my 3 favorites:
Mm.
conversion, Burr, and creative financing.
Mhm. Thank you.
Oh, of
Actually,
course.
uh, personally, for me, BRRRR sounds like really the best way. If you don't have anything to convert, so BRRRR.
It's literally a way that I've been able to write off items on taxes. I've been able to pull money out and not be taxed because it's profit. I've been able to buy more properties, and I've been able to um, get appreciation throughout the process. So it's hit on so many levels. And now I can buy properties that people are selling as fix and flips, and there's no buyers out because they're trying to get, $100,000 home run deals. They're trying to absolutely crush it as a fix and flip, but I could come in and do lighter rehab and now acquire it and have extra space there for what I'm going to pull out at the tail end. So it doesn't need to absolutely crush the way it would for someone who needs to sell it. I won't need to sell it because I am the end buyer at the end of the day, and I'm going to refinance it to myself. So for me, Burr has obviously been my choice. It's been 7 times in 6 months. But creative is still, I think, another cool way, especially if you can do it. It's fun.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, we probably have another 5 minutes left. Thank you so much, Ray, for this awesome podcast. A lot of golden nuggets, a lot of wonderful information for our for people who watch us right now, who will be watching us in the future. As you still have a couple minutes, please feel free to ask Ray questions. If you have, excuse me, I'm trying to recover. Yeah, and Ray, I just recently spoke with someone who told me he implements PadSplit in his own house. So he lives in this house and he rents a couple of rooms out with PadSplit, which was something new to me. So before I was believe you can only have separate house to make it isn't PadSplit, but we really can do it in our own house.
It's a new change. So there's 2 things that PadSplit's implemented recently. PadSplit's recently released where you could do multiple occupants, and they've done it a long time ago, like over 4 years ago. Before I started, they did couples, and people did couples houses. Then they reduced it down during COVID to be 1 person, and then they recently changed it to where now you could do a couple in the house again. They still need to register, they still need to go through the process, and it still needs to match to a property that allows for couples. So if your room is a massive living room or a master ensuite, private ensuite, you could designate your room to be a dual occupant room. And then people who are looking for a stay for 2 people can find your property for 2 people. Clearly, you're going to charge more. So investors can charge whatever else that they want at that room to get those people that will be 2 to a room. The other change that PadSplit has done is that now they're allowing owner occupants. They also did that before. It was a different thing. Now, as we are expanding as a marketplace across the country even further and aggressively growing, we have allowed there to be owner occupant properties. And you would also designate it as a property that has a owner that owns a house, that obviously owns a house and is renting extra rooms in their house. It is displayed there. I believe you could filter and search for it, but it is now a strategy that you can use house hacking as popularly said. You can house hack and be on PadSplit. But it was like a month ago. Like it wasn't too long ago. It wasn't, something that, we've done it for like a year or half a year. It's literally only been like a month since they approved it. And they look at different ways to better the experience, but also increase returns and add a new fold to things, because there's always going to be changes and modifications on how to better service hosts, but also how to better service members in the process. That's just one of them.
And you want to say it's up to homeowner to allow tenants to stay couples in their rooms, right? It's up
That's
to
correct.
me, isn't for
you would mark it on your listing as double. And when you search now for double, only the rooms that were selected as double would show up. If you don't want it at all on your property, you could keep it to single occupancy, and you only get people that are single occupant.
Good. everything changes. Everything changes with time.
It
Cool.
does. I mean, ultimately, the unaffordability isn't just singles at the end of the day. There's 14 million people in the United States that can't afford affordable housing, period, like singles. Out of that, there's
Yeah.
still families that can't afford. It's popular in Florida.
Mhm.
It's sad to say it's popular, but there's movies, there's known facts that there's people who work for large industries, large jobs, and they stay in motels at times. There's
Mhm.
motels making tons of money on weekly rentals. So with that being said, I wouldn't be surprised to see a larger home be divided to two families down the line. That's not to say like that's something that I heard, but there's going to be different ways to do a pad split. I assume down the line as they figure to get different types of properties, and there's different investors that are willing to do that. That might be a reality. So everything changes.
Yeah, and reality is obviously is America needs affordable house. It's truth.
That's
And
correct.
what do you have any plans to extend your presence in some new states? What about my Massachusetts? I going to be here?
I see. I think on the map, it might even show gray for Massachusetts. If you look at New York, it shows as gray. If you look at Chicago, it shows as
Mhm.
gray. And I believe Seattle shows as gray. Those are all coming soon markets. But because we're taking on anything that people are looking to onboard on the platform, once we hit a certain threshold of active rooms in a city, PadSplit will start to
Mhm.
pay for the paid advertisement portion of it, which is the Google, Meta, and YouTube, and they'll start to consider it a core market. I'd assume it's not going to be hard to get a few investors to put on properties from Boston, like Lawrence, Methuen, Springfield, and say, hey, there's
Mhm.
enough here to consider it a core market. And we're going to now do the greater Boston area. But yeah, the closest we are to there is Philly. And officially, we're in like South, I think it's Camden, New Jersey. And
Mhm.
I'm already seeing random rooms in Long Island and Jersey. And I think there's one room in Manhattan. We're bound to literally have something in Boston very soon.
Yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense. Ray, thank you so much again for your time. It's wonderful, almost 1 hour podcast. Lots of great ideas, a lot of great advices for people who wants or who are in PadSplit already. So as in conclusion, I would say, guys, PadSplit is great. Jump into PadSplit. You have great support in the PadSplit team. And please reach out to Ray if you have questions. In the future, his Facebook link will be in under this video. Thank you so much, Ray. I
I appreciate the
appreciate you.
time. Thank you for
Thank
having me
you.
on your podcast. I greatly appreciate it. Again, my Facebook link will be on the bottom, but I do appreciate your audience and your time. It's always fun.
Yeah. Thank you, Ray. Oh, I forgot to mention. I know you will have baby very soon. It will be baby boy, correct?
That is, have a baby boy at the end of May. I'm gonna have a May baby.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. It's so
Super
soon.
excited.
Gemini. Best people. Gemini. I'm
Yeah,
Gemini.
baby's gonna be a Gemini. I'm a Capricorn. I don't know if I get along with Gemini specifically, but I have a lot of Geminis around me. The biggest pad split host that I know has 430 doors. He's a Gemini. He's a good buddy of mine.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So
So let's guys, let's expect a great baby and great personality.
but hopefully my wife's humor. But yeah, fingers crossed. Healthy baby.
Yeah, absolutely. Best wishes, best wishes. It's only couple months left and new life is coming. Thank you
Thank you
so
so
much, Ray,
much.
for your time. Thank you. I appreciate you. I appreciate your time. I appreciate everything you shared with people.
Thanks, Elena.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye
you.
bye. Thank you. Bye bye. Guys, thank you so much for being today with us. Ray is great. You see, he's open, he's helpful. So reach out to him if you have any questions about PadSplit. Actually, I'm PadSplit host. If you have questions, you can reach out to me as well. I'm not as much experienced as in Ray, but I'm growing my experience. And thank you so much again for your time. And have a good night.